Hello, everybody. This is Alonzo Montalvo here with you. Thanks for tuning in to my very first podcast ever. Let's go ahead and get this baby started here. I'm going to go over some baseball and some football with you guys today. First things first, baseball. Now, let's go ahead and look at those divisions here. We have some close races coming on, but I'm going to go over the divisions first. Let's start with that American League East. You have Toronto and the New York Yankees battling it out. You have the Yankees behind 2.5 games as of today, the 23rd of September. But with 12 games left, that's going to be one of the closest races there is. Now, let's move down to that Central. And like I said, 12 games left. I think Kansas City pretty much has this one in the bag. No clinch yet, but I think they need to win maybe one or two more games. And with 12 games left, I'm pretty sure Kansas City can do that. Now, that American League West, you got Texas, Houston, and even the Angels here. This is probably the most exciting race in the American League for sure. You have the Texas on top, leading by 2 games above the Houston Astros and 4.5 above the Los Angeles Angels. And then when Texas and Houston play, there has been some great gameplay there. And everybody has questioned every call so far. But that's what happens when you get into some September baseball. Everybody starts questioning every single call you do. Now let's go ahead and move on to the National League before I cover the wild card. You got the East here. The New York Mets are above the Washington Nationals 6.5 games. This is one of the two divisions where either whoever wins gets the playoff. With the wild card, I will cover that wild card later, and you'll see why whoever wins these two divisions gets the playoffs, and the other one finishes the season early. Now, the other division where it's a win or you don't play in the playoffs, I believe, it's going to be National League West. You got the Dodgers 6 games ahead of the San Francisco Giants, who are the defending World Series champs. So they're going to do everything they can to try to get into that World Series. But 6 games back, Dodgers only have to win 7 games to clinch the division. It's going to be a close race. The Giants are going to be looking for some spoiler teams to beat the Dodgers. Now, the National League Central is, personally myself, I believe is the best division in baseball there is. You got the Cardinals with 95 wins, Pittsburgh with 91 wins, but only 4 games behind St. Louis. St. Louis is the only team to clinch some playoff berth, but with the Pittsburgh Pirates right behind them trying to get that division because nobody wants to play the wild card game. They'd rather play a series instead of just one game, win or lose. But don't count out those Chicago Cubs, folks. You got them 6 games behind the Cardinals, but they will have the wild card, I believe, for sure. Now let's get into those wild cards there for you. National League wild card. You got Pittsburgh in the first slot and Chicago in the second slot. But the closest team behind them is the San Francisco Giants with 9.5 games. But with 12 games left in the season, I don't think you're going to get that wild card spot. So it's pretty much Pittsburgh and Chicago. But if St. Louis loses the division, then they'll drop down into that wild card slot. To me, those will be the 3 of your 2 wild card people in the games for the playoffs there for you. Now, the American League wild card. This is when the wild card comes to be a factor, folks. You have the Yankees with the first slot, 4 games ahead of the second slot, which is Houston Astros. But you got the Minnesota Twins 2 games behind, the Los Angeles Angels 2.5 games behind, and Cleveland 4.5 games behind. Even the Baltimore Orioles are 5 games behind, but you got to play some good baseball to get that if you're the Orioles. Even the Indians, I think, have to play exceptional baseball to get to that wild card because you have the Astros, Rangers, the Angels, the Yankees, and Minnesota all playing some really good baseball, and they all want that playoff spot. No one wants to end the season early, folks. Now, after all is said and done, it's nothing set in stone, but when it comes down to it, I think you have a couple teams that have easy wins in their divisions, but you never know. This is September baseball. This is where everybody wants to play their best, and this is when baseball is the most exciting, when September baseball is here. Then we'll move on into the postseason, and October baseball is even more exciting. Alrighty, guys, let's talk some football now for you. I'm just going to go over some teams that are starting off not so hot and some teams that are blazing out of the gates there for you. And also going to go over some key injuries. First things first, teams that are not so hot. Biggest one, I believe, Indianapolis Colts. 0-2 the first two games. Their offense seems like they don't know how to get on the same page. They're having some issues. Andrew Luck's throwing picks, fumbles, not taking advantage of drives that when they're in the red zone, they're not taking advantage. Their kicker missing 2 field goals in the past 2 games. Those are points you need, folks. And if their offense can't get it together, their defense is young. They had some young DBs, and they can't help out their defense if they're not being on the field and not getting points. So they need to get their offense going in order for them to start playing some good football. Now, the other big 0-2, I believe, is the Philadelphia Eagles. That offense was supposed to be the most explosive offense. Everybody was saying you got 3 of the most dynamic running backs in the game in a sense, and they're not looking like they have 3 of the most dynamic running backs. They're looking like they don't know how to run the football. They don't look like they're on the same page. They're not going fast enough. They're not having the offense that Chip Kelly wants. Maybe this type of offense isn't gonna succeed in the NFL. But in order for them to win, they need to show everybody that this offense can succeed in the NFL. But Sam Bradford needs to stay healthy, keep being accurate, and they need to get that running back. Those running backs need to start running some good chunks of yards. They need to get some good chunk of yards in order to succeed. But if they don't, they're gonna have a tough time in that division, and they might not even make the playoffs. Won't even have a winning record, I believe. Now, another 0-2 team that a lot of people are probably shocked by, actually 2 more, I believe. You got Seattle Seahawks. Been in the Super Bowl 2 years in a row, and they're starting off 0-2. But in order for them to start winning games, I believe their offense needs to start taking advantage of Jimmy Graham. You traded for him for a reason. Show everybody why you got Jimmy Graham. Show them why it wasn't just Drew Brees that made him a big person. Show him that he can play some good football no matter what. Take advantage of him in the red zone. He's your touchdown guy right there in the red zone. And also, with their defense getting Cam Chancellor back, we'll see if they step up the game. Defense has been pretty good the first 2 games, but their offense isn't taking advantage of what they need to do. And if their offense isn't giving the defense enough rest, defense will get tired. And like Aaron Rodgers showed everybody, you can start picking them apart, score touchdowns. Now, the Baltimore Ravens are also 0-2. They're supposed to be good. The defense lost Terrell Suggs, though, so that's going to be a tough one to recover from. But they need to get their offense going. Justin Forsett needs to start running for more yards. Steve Smith Sr. had a good second week, but he needs to have a good week here. Some receivers are out. Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco, as they call him, can take advantage of people trying to see that they're a weaker team. But I think if they need to play some good football too in order to get those playoffs, because the Ravens, without Terrell Suggs, it's going to be a hard year, but they need to push through. Now, some 2-0 teams. The biggest one, I believe, is the shocker, is New York Jets. 2-0. But their defense is looking really good. And if their offense can keep taking advantage of the turnovers that the defense is causing, I think they'll keep up their success. But if the offense can't keep it going and defense doesn't get as many turnovers, they have 5 turnovers in each of their first 2 games to make it 10 total. Now that's some good defense right there. But if they can keep that up, they're going to have some success, and they'll cause some troubles for New England, who always seems to handle that division really well. But the Bills are looking good, and Miami always does some upset shockers in that division. Another 2-0 team, I believe, that's doing good that might have some issues are the Dallas Cowboys. Why are they going to have some issues, folks? Because they don't have Dez Bryant and they don't have Tony Romo anymore. Lost Dez Bryant in week 1, had to get surgery on his foot, and now just lost Tony Romo in this last week too, broken collarbone. It's going to be some tough football games ahead without those 2 of their 3 stars. Jason Witten's the other star, but he's getting a little bit older, so he can't recover as fast from some of his little minor injuries, like a sprained ankle. You can't recover from that as fast as he could if he was a little bit younger. So if Jason Witten doesn't stay healthy, it's going to be a rough season for the Cowboys without those 3 stars. Those are the 3 best stars on the team, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Some other key injuries: Chicago Bears, Jay Cutler's out. That's a big one. Terrell Suggs was another big one I saw. And folks, if you lose your star, it's going to be tough to come back from that. Your star is the reason why you win games, I believe. The reason why your team is united. And without those big stars, the team won't be as united. And it's going to be tough to win some football games. But it's only week 2, folks. There's still plenty of football left. We'll see how it goes throughout the season. And if everybody on their team can stay healthy, there's going to be some good football games. Thanks for tuning in, guys.